closeout game is always the hardest game of the series. It's the most tiring one. You better be ready for it, and I think we'll be ready for it.
Welcome to NBA Today, presented by PNC Bank. Kendrick Perkins, Shanae Agumake, Ramona Shelburne, Malika Andrews, and Mr. Canadian Tuxedo himself, Richard Jefferson, in the building.
That's a denim suit, y'all.
Look at you.
Denim suit.
Did you get that from Malika's closet?
Like it? Like it? I think that's... Y'all like it?
What
Y'all like
is
it?
that?
Y'all like my shirt?
Wait, hold on. We gotta get the floor.
Take
This
a moment.
is unbelievable.
Take a moment. There you go. Take a
Just
moment.
try.
You know what I'm saying? Look,
Suck it in a little
Way
bit.
too good in that shirt.
What?
y'all a little action.
No, that's not the part anyone wants to see.
World.
All my people. All my people would like this. You know what I'm saying? It's good to have Perk. We missed you. You know what I'm saying? I can only have two people on the
Richard.
shirt, so sorry, Janae.
Does Perk- do we have a size
You and
for
Zach, you guys are coming next.
All right. So,
No, don't worry.
I'm genuinely
Ramona,
afraid.
I have too much respect for you to put
Thank
you on a
you.
shirt.
Thank you.
As a mother of two, yeah, I'm not doing that to you. Yeah, this is how we live in our day-to-day. Let's get started.
We have four
Wow.
game fives on the docket tonight. I don't even know how to transition off of that.
there is
you gonna
no
have Perk
transition.
over to watch
Button it
games?
back up.
No,
Yeah, close it back
I ain't
up.
got no
I
food.
don't-
I ain't got no
Please
food.
close it back up. Let's
ain't got no
dive right
food.
in.
money on that.
Let's go.
Like, what?
I saw it on TikTok, Amazon. You can buy it.
LeBron James and the Lakers, they have a chance to advance tonight. It's been a pretty remarkable turnaround for LA, who started off 2-10 this year, guys. And after they secured the 7th seed, Darvin Ham wrote on the whiteboard in the locker room that analytics had given them a 0.03% chance to make it to the playoffs. Now they have a chance to become the first team ever to win a round after being in the play-in. The game tips at 7:30 Eastern. I can't even look in this direction anymore. Perk, what's your key to tonight's game?
The only key of every game when it comes down to the Lakers, and it's definitely not the beef between Dylan Brooks and LeBron James, it's Anthony Davis, right? And we look at the inconsistency from him on the offensive end. Defensively, he has been a force. But when we get the version of Anthony Davis that we saw in Game 3, that's the AD that the Lakers need, not 12 and 11. 12 and 11 is Capella and Robert Williams' number, meaning role player numbers. You're looking for a guy to be the first option. I want to see AD demand the ball offensively, be aggressive, be a force, and go out there and have one of those dominant performances.
See, me, I think it's everyone else because I just don't know the level of consistency that we can depend on Anthony Davis. So if I'm looking at the Lakers, I'm going to say, is it Rory that's going to step up and have a half or a game? Is it Austin Reeves? Is he going to have an outstanding half or a game? Is it D'Lo, who went on a 9-0 run after being 0 for 5 from 3? Those are the guys that I'm looking at. If the role players play well for the Lakers, I think the Lakers win because we know what we're going to get from LeBron. We know somewhat maybe what we get from AD. If those role players play well, then I don't think it's a problem.
But the reality is that the Grizzlies, their back is against the wall, and they're playing at home.
Yeah.
And in the regular season, this is something I think that energy will be just transformational for them.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to go out this way. I mean, going out to the Lakers, so it starts and ends with Ja Morant. Because he is the heart and soul of this squad. He 2 games ago dropped 45, last game 19. They will need all of that and then some. And I know it's been a turbulent last few weeks for Ja, last month or so, but the reality is this is his team. It's on his home floor. They've done it consistently there. You're going to have to expect a big night for him because his energy is just contagious. I mean, he's what brings out that great defensive effort in Jaren Jackson Jr. I know he has to be careful with how he takes off and lands and those things like that. But the city goes as he goes.
It's going to be rocking.
And it's hard for us to see him having to take a back seat in a circumstance of a matchup of this magnitude.
Right.
I think you said the key word there. It's energy, okay? And Malika and I were both there at the last game. And you saw everybody walking out of that arena exhausted. I mean, LeBron James sat at his locker. I watched him, sat at his locker for like 10 minutes, and he couldn't even put his shoes on. Like, he was so tired at the end of that game. And flat out, there was a timeout late in the game where Darvin Ham and LeBron were trying to decide whether to call a timeout or not. Darvin Ham called timeout. First, LeBron says no. Then he says, actually, you know what? I need a timeout. And I asked him about it after the game, and I said, hey, what happened? And he goes, I was exhausted.
8 guys in that game played 40 plus minutes.
This is just a quick turnaround. So the first 3 games of this series, they had a lot of rest. Now, after game 3, it's every other day, and that's a long flight between LA and Memphis.
Yeah, and then we talk about this roster. We talked about it when they won their play-in game. They needed to because they're an older roster who needs that time to. I don't
understand what's the big deal.
To relax.
Why?
What? So wait, hold on.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why is my picture on your That's what I want to know. Why is my picture on
Don't answer that. Don't answer it.
I think Joe Face would do the best job. Why are you looking at my nipples anyway?
I'm just glad it's not me. We have another game 5 tonight, y'all.
Cut the mics.
Let's head to
Staring
Sacramento.
at my man milkers.
The Warriors and the Kings series, my friends. It is all tied up. So far, the home team has won out, and you know what they say, a series doesn't start until the road team wins. So Golden State's road struggles, they've been well documented all year long, but another wrinkle to this one, right? De'Aaron Fox said yesterday he intends to play through a fractured index finger, told reporters it's just about pain tolerance. Here's Domantas Sabonis on Fox.
I just know he's going to play. I texted him, you're playing, and we're getting this game. So I'm happy he's playing, and that's all that matters. Oh, it's big. I mean, I think we wouldn't shut up if he didn't play. So we're happy he's on the court. He made a decision early, and we're good. We're in good hands. He's going to definitely be ready. The fans are going to help too.
All right. So Sabonis says he's going to be good to go. Fox said it's just about managing that pain. Yep. Shanae, what do you think? What is this impact going to be?
No, she was looking at me, and I'm still not on this. I'm going to try to put myself together.
What's wrong?
The impact is you. Everything is wrong with you. The impact is I love how the Warriors made an adjustment. It started with Draymond Green saying, hey, he pulled up to the arena, the Chase Center, as Ramona just eloquently told us a couple days ago, and was like, I'm coming off the bench because I saw some value there. I saw the floor spacing. People were more comfortable getting their shots off. And guess what? Perk, you said it earlier this week. It's not where you start. It's how you finish the game. And he was still on the floor getting that game-saving defensive stop. What are the adjustments for the Kings? The adjustment to me is, all right, maybe De'Aaron Fox, he may not be that same guy shooting the ball. You can't count on that, even though I do, because I know where he's from, where he's born and bred. But still, now I think, okay, maybe we think about, hey, let's run our offense through Domantas Sabonis some more. Because this is a guy who quietly was one of the top guys in assists this year. Put him in pick and rolls, have him initiate the offense, have him take some pressure off of De'Aaron Fox, who I know late in games he has the ball in his hands, but early on he feels things out. Initiate and establish the bonus early, especially getting that offense going, so it takes pressure off of De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, but he got to make sure he do it in the right fashion. And I want to dive into Sabonis because I feel like he's taking this matchup personal when it comes down between him and Draymond and him going against the Warriors, trying to prove that he can actually score the basketball. And I'm watching him take these elbow jump shots. One, you're open for a reason. And don't let the Warriors bait you to continue to fall into their trap of shooting that ball. I heard Mike Brown in his post-game interview, and he said something along the lines of, we have to learn how to make the right reads when we drive the basketball, and there's 3 people on us. We have to learn to kick out. He was really talking to Sabonis at that point. So I want to see Sabonis go out there and be the force on the boards that he always is, finish around the basket, but play within himself and not try to do too much.
Just got to be aggressive too. Like when he catches the ball and you said he's open for a reason, you got to shoot too. Like he's passed up a lot of shots in this series. And I think he hasn't quite been the same after game 2. He's just had 14 points, 15 points in these in the 2 games since the incident with Draymond, and that's because he's going against the teeth of the Warriors defense. That's Kevon Looney and Draymond Green. With Fox injured here, and I know he's going to play. He's tough. He's getting through it. But the biggest adjustment the Warriors made in that game was putting Draymond on Fox.
Second half, right.
So what's the liability when you put Draymond on Fox? Well, Draymond gave him some space when he took the 3, right? Because Draymond says, I can't get too close to you. You're going to drive by me. If you don't quite respect the 3 and the outside shooting as much, if there's something wrong with your finger, then he can stay in that spot and dare him to shoot.
Not to mention, this is Draymond Green's return to Sacramento after he now
that's right.
stopped. Just, as a little bit of
De'Aaron Fox is fine. De'Aaron Fox is fine. If any player on the Warriors, any fan doesn't feel like this is not going to impact him. We saw Ja's fingers bend back. I am not saying that De'Aaron Fox is not going to impact him, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I believe De'Aaron Fox will go out there and play a game that will not be changed. Whether he makes shots or miss shots, that's a different thing, but I don't think his game's going to be changed.
Okay, but in the regular season, this is a 1 to 2 week injury where he might need surgery to put a pin in later.
Yeah, and there's an adjustment if you have a splint on your hand as well.
But listening to De'Aaron talk yesterday.
His feet okay. His feet okay. That man can make layups, can he?
Right.
Right? I'm just saying. He's got a splint. You saw him shooting with the splint. He's going to get a few hundred shots up before the game even starts with
Juice that bad boy up.
So I just think that De'Aaron Fox, if you're going to go into that game thinking De'Aaron Fox is going to be hobbled, then you saw what Ja Morant did and had 40 plus.
That can't be your only game plan, particularly when he's saying, I feel pretty close to 100%. It may not be right there, but at this point he said, I feel better when I get out on the floor. I'm just going to keep looking this way. I'm going to keep making eye contact with you because I don't know what's going on over here. I do know, though, that we're not done talking about Game 5. Were you able to adjust your Queen Janet Jackson tickets, Richard?
I was not able to.
Oh.
I was not to.
That's a bummer because
I don't want to talk about it.
Still to come on NBA Today, Ice Trey, he made sure that night because my goodness, it was cold in there. We should have known. I mean, when the shades are coming through, the Atlanta Hawks are trailed by 13
That ain't true.
with under 6
Shades are not
play.
an indicator of nice play.
I mean, this
was.
No shade here. Look at this. Like, Trey, I watched this entire game because I was here in studio for the late night. At many moments, you thought, oh, the Celtics are going to pull this out. Nope. They took full control behind Trae Young. I think he was like 100% usage rate in clutch time. Unreal.
Well, we could talk about how this maybe showed some of the weaknesses that the Celtics have had all year, but I just want to focus on this incredible performance by Trae Young first, Perk.
Oh, absolutely. He was straight dominant. And look, in attack mode, but he's used to these environments.
Yeah, I mean,
loves these
environments.
environments.
He said he likes to be the villain.
Big mistake right here, Malika. How are you going to foul a shooter that close to half court away from the basket?
Marcus Smart
discipline.
knows.
Too much.
Jaylen Brown knows the mistake that was made. So to the free throw line we go, and then into the backcourt. Trae Young once again. I mean,
Too much
this is
space.
just
Best shot possible.
you can't do that.
He's backing up. You see Jaylen Brown backing up.
Don't back up on that man.
Really, baby.
Go out of from Quinn Snyder.
So Atlanta gets the win. Trae Young, you mentioned it, Sinead, took over in crunch time of Game 5 to stave off elimination, and Young outscored the Celtics in the final 6 minutes of the game 14-8, and one big reason for that was turnovers, right? The Celtics had 4 down the stretch. It set the stage for Young's dagger. Let's take a listen to John Collins.
Fourth quarter time, close game. You know, I'm sort of, you know, at this point being with Trae my whole career, you know, I know what time it is. Like, it's Ice Trey. And he does his thing. He's clutch. He wants to be in those moments, and he wants the big shot. So it's sort of normal for me to see him go into that mode and do what he does.
You know, this is where, you know, you show what you're made of in moments like this. So whatever you got to do, you know, recovery-wise, mentally-wise, you know, it's over with now. Ain't nothing we could do to get it back. So we got opportunities in front of us, and let's not, you know, lose those opportunities. Think about, you know, what happened last game. Just got to come out and be ready for the next one.
All right, taking nothing away from Trae Young's performance here. 38 points, 13 rebounds, 13 assists, 4 rebounds. There we go. That's what it is. But I do want to talk about the Celtics here, Perk, because on the other side, how big is this collapse for them? What is your concern level here?
Well, Malik, I actually don't want to talk about the Celtics. I actually want to take a moment of silence. Y'all follow my drill.
This is live TV, bro.
That's for Trae Young. That's for Trae Young. Paying our respects more to Trae Young. 38-13 in the Garden. No DeJounte Murray. And he gets the job done. But here's the thing, right? I'm sick and tired of the disrespect when it comes down to Trae Young. Like, we keep on with this movie, his Trae Young movie, and it's starting to be fiction. When are we going to start telling the true story about his career? When are we going to start appreciating what he's doing and stop disrespecting him? Look, when it comes down to Trae Young, he averaged 25, 26, and 10 this season. Last year led the entire league in total points and assists. And on top of that, we forget about what he did to the Knicks in the Garden what Donovan Mitchell is struggling to do right now. We forget that he actually ended the marriage between Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We forget that he had Giannis and the Bucks on the brinks of actually eliminating them and going to the finals if he wouldn't have turned his ankle on the official foot. So when I think about Trae Young, who has led the Hawks 3 out of 5 years to the postseason, right, without another bona fide superstar, and we label him as a coach killer. How? When Nate McMillan wasn't supposed to get the job in the first place. He actually stepped in as an intern. He was the guy that came in, and Trae just happened to elevate his game to actually let Nate get the job. So when I think about Trae and I think about what he's been doing, averaging a career in points, 25 and 9 assists, the disrespect has to stop to some point. The man is getting the job done. He's a bona fide superstar. He has risen to the occasion at every level, on every stage, even in the postseason. I just want to take time to appreciate and wonder, when are we going to start telling the true story of his movie and stop with the fiction?
Well, there was a lot of folks that were maybe doubting the Atlanta Hawks' ability to push this series even further because, get this, Game 6 is in Atlanta. It's on Thursday. And just one teeny tiny little issue here, Perk. State Farm was already booked for a Janet Jackson concert.
Sign of disrespect.
And so you can see what Trae Young said. Sorry, not sorry to this legend. Hope she can be at the game now. But what's your concern level here on the Celtics side of things, Shanae?
Yeah, I think that we thought this season we'd see a step in maturity, especially late game, because last season a lot of it was like, oh, they made mistakes down the stretch, oh, they were tired. But now we talked all season long, hey, all year long, hey, this is one of the deepest teams of basketball. Hey, they play great basketball on both ends. And then to see a game where they could really close things out, it felt like they were just, shadow watching and just sleepwalking through that final fourth quarter instead of you're on your home floor. Do exactly what needs to be done. So many mistakes were made that I was like, what's going on here? No timeouts being called to sort of regroup the team. That is a bigger conversation of what's happened in the playoffs. It sort of seems like people are like, learn through the fire. We've seen this in multiple games. No, win the game.
Yeah, you have to learn in the
come out. Listen, and don't call a timeout when you don't have one.
We have seen mistakes with timeouts littered throughout this first round of the postseason. Some that cost teams games, some that were close. It's been interesting. But I will say this about the Boston Celtics. Not worried. Perk, how many games did it take you guys to win the first round when you won the championship?
Took us 7.
How many games did it take you to win in the second round?
7.
Then next round?
6.
Next round?
6.
It can take time for people to figure this out and get going. Just because you're the 1 versus the 8 or the 2 versus the 7, that don't matter. You're playing against high-level pros that are locked in, ready to go. It might take a game or 2. So for me, I don't look at this as a problem. It's things that they need to address moving forward.
Right.
But at least they know what they need to address.
The one thing I will say is you do give Joel Embiid just a little more time, right? That's the one sort of silver lining of that. You give Joel just a little more time to rest up, to be more prepared.
They're not worried about
available.
Joel.
They may not be scared of Joel, but I would be. Let's get to some news now out of Houston. The Rockets, they have hired Ime Udoka as their next coach. And in late September, remember, Udoka was suspended by the Celtics for the season. Now, the Rockets, they held an introductory press conference for Udoka today. He took questions from reporters, and it was for the first time since that suspension. Take a listen.
They've done their due diligence and homework on who I am as a person. I think we spent quality time together, getting to know each other, and we clicked pretty easily and pretty well. But overall, I released a statement months ago when everything happened, and apologized to a lot of people for the tough position I put them in, and I stand by that, and I feel much more remorse even now towards that. And so, I spent this last off season working on myself in a lot of different ways, improving in areas, chance to sit back, reflect, and grow, and I think that'll make me a better coach and overall a better leader. But the matter has been resolved, and I can't really speak much about it.
So clearly, Udoka is inheriting a team that has a really bright young core here. Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperoon Şengün, nearly $60 million in cap space heading into the offseason. But the big key is their lottery odds, right? They have a 14% chance to win the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes that is tied for the best odds in the lottery. So they clearly hired a win-now coach. Perk, what do you make of this fit for the Rockets?
I actually love the hire. When you think about what Ime Udoka did with the Boston Celtics, for as getting Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to come together on one accord and make a finals run in his first year. The thing that I love most about him is that he's going to hold guys accountable. He's going to call out his superstars. And I believe that's what, Porter need and Jalen Green. He also need that as well. And Jabari Smith, they need structure, right? So you need a coach that's going to come in that is well respected around the league for his other players. You hear about Jason Tatum. You hear Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart rave on how much they love Ime Udoka because he has that relationship and is able to speak their language in the locker room.
Well, the Rockets, they owe a top 4 protected pick to OKC next year. That's thanks to the CP3 Russell Westbrook trade. So if they are feeling the pressure, right, to win right now, they have clearly hired a coach who is proven to be able to come in, make an impact, and do so. All right, let's get back to the playoffs because still Devin Booker and the Suns eliminated the Clippers. Because Kawhi Leonard was ruled out of that final clinching game, and then he's been diagnosed with a torn meniscus in his right knee. That's what sources confirmed to ESPN on Wednesday. The Clippers and Leonard, they will decide on the course of treatment for the injury in the next 2 weeks. That is what our Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting. So this is just the latest major injury, right, in Kawhi Leonard's career. A bulk of those issues have been with his legs. He missed all of the 2022 season. He tore his ACL in his right knee. And then in the same leg, he's had a bunch of different issues since the initial quad injury that was back in 2016. So back here with Ramona Shelburne. Ramona, what decisions here do the Clippers have, first around Kawhi and then in their offseason?
Well, they only have 2 free agents, and that's Russell Westbrook and Plumlee. But the big decisions to me are, what do you do with this roster going forward? Do you just run it back and hope they're all healthy at some point? Do you make decisions about the future with Kawhi and Paul George having only played 41% of the games and they've got them in 2019? I mean, Steve Ballmer spent over $350 million on this team. This year, Kawhi and Paul George played 38 games together. That's not enough. It's just not. And when you look at this, Ty Lue is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Facts.
He signed a big contract when he first came in. But if you ask him to coach this team again, that you have a decision to make. Do you ask him to coach that team with just 1 more year on his contract? He has 1 year, and then there's a team option on the last year. This is a year you have to decide, is Ty Lue, you're going to ask him to coach the team? Do you give him another extension, empower him? Don't send him into next year with this same roster with a contract where he would basically be in the last year of a contract.
Ramona, thank you. So while the Clippers are going home, the Nuggets, they are the team that is moving on. So it's time for Putting in Work, presented by Upwork, because Nikola Jokic, he recorded his 8th career postseason triple-double, posting 28 points, 17 rebounds, and 12 assists, while his running mate Jamal Murray scored a game-high 35. The Nuggets got the win 112-109 to advance to the second round for the 4th time in the last 5 seasons. So the Nuggets, the Suns, they took care of business in their first round series, but Caesars gives the edge to the Suns. That's despite not having home court advantage. The 2 teams split their season series, but the Suns wins. They didn't face Nikola Jokic in either one of those games. So this series, it gets started on Saturday. We have some sad news now that we get to in the NBA. Heather Walker, the vice president of public relations for the Celtics, died on Wednesday morning following a nearly 2-year battle with cancer. The Celtics released a statement on her passing, saying in part, quote, Heather Walker was a boundlessly charismatic, giving, and selfless soul. As anyone who knew her could attest, her abundant positive energy and kindness should not be mistaken for any lack of fortitude or determination when such qualities were required. Each of these attributes were on display through the best days of her life and remained intact, sharpened even, when she encountered her cruel diagnosis. Heather was just 52 years old. NBA Today will be right back.
On the go. Woo!
Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. Stephen A's Knicks have a chance to advance for only the 2nd time in the last 22 seasons. So let's dive into this a little bit further. And for that, in our Home Court Advantage series, we are joined by our ABC7 lead anchor, Ryan Field. Ryan, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We saw the Garden absolutely rocking, matching Stephen A's energy last weekend. What are you expecting tonight as they have a chance to close this all out?
I'll tell you what, Stephen A. encapsulated Knicks' excitement for their fans perfectly, as he tends to do. I mean, look, they've only advanced to the second round. They haven't done it since 10 years ago. So this fan base, as we've seen in the last 2 games outside Madison Square Garden, where they basically had to close down the streets because they've been celebrating these big wins in Game 3 and Game 4, this fan base has just been dying for something to celebrate. And they know, Malika, this is a team that is better than it was 2 years ago. So they feel like they have a chance to really make some noise in this postseason, and it starts with a chance to close out the Cavs here tonight in Cleveland.
I know that there was an extra little emotional charge, right, coming into this series because Donovan Mitchell was the subject of so much talk in connection with the New York Knicks. And obviously they end up with Jalen Brunson, whose success has been inextricably linked, right, with New York and vice versa. How would you, though, sum up the impact that he has made on this team?
I think you saw it in Game 4 when he had 29 points, hitting a couple of huge threes down the stretch, a game that Julius Randle finished on the bench, spent the entire fourth quarter on the bench, had just 7 points. The Knicks wouldn't have won this game in the playoffs 2 years ago. Jalen Brunson has been a steadying force. He set career highs multiple times this season, including a 48-point piece against the Cavs, in fact, last month. So he has certainly been, you could argue, one of, if not the most impactful free agent signings in the NBA.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I know this game tonight is in Cleveland, but I used to live right over there. I can only imagine what 7th Avenue is going to look like if the Knicks end up winning this one. Thank you again for spending some time with us here on NBA Today. All right, let's get a little bit more into this matchup because we have a cheat sheet from Janae Agumake brought to you by BetMGM. Janae, take it away.
You heard it. New York, stand up. Orange and blue skies, baby. The city that never sleeps finally has a leading man in Jalen Brunson. Now, he may not be Fashion Week flashy, getting ready for the Met Gala, but when he is in ISOs, isolation possessions, the results are usually straight buckets. As a 6'2" point guard, JB is 4th in ISO scoring this postseason, and he does do it with a little bit of flair. Now, let's look at this matchup. The reason why he's able to cook is because this is a like-size matchup. Look at the size and specs. Very similar going up against Darius Garland, but he's able to use that push-off. He's been shooting 45% on contested shots. He creates his own space. It's still contested, but this is just natural. You kind of think maybe you should double him based on how productive he's been, especially after things like this. I mean, getting into his package with the ball handling. He's a lefty shooter, contested on the right. That should be able to be deflected, but he's been in his bag. Now, let's switch over to the point guard on the other side because Donovan Mitchell, I mean, the Cavs, they will not go down without a fight. He has to take things personally, so take a listen to this.
At the end of the day, like I said, I've had probably the second or third worst playoff game of my career. I didn't show up for my guys. Like, ultimately, like, you know, everybody did their job. You know, we had our faults as a group, but, you know, ultimately I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And, you know, I take that, and I got to just be better. It starts with me. Being honest, you know, I just have to be better. I have to be better.
We all know what Donovan Mitchell is capable of, and we know he can play better. But this is why defense and matchups matter in the playoffs, especially with a guy like Josh Hart guarding him. Spider's just making 36% of his shots when being guarded by Hart. That has to change to get back in this series. Let's take a look at this stellar defense. Director Kathy, thank you for running it. All right, watch this right here. He is active, almost near half court, still pressuring, has a good awareness to be like, all right, I'm out there, let me go under the screen. He's like, oh, no, let me stay with him. We're not switching. Very physical at the point of attack, and he keeps the ball active defensively by keeping his hands and getting so many deflections. Things are not comfortable. Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, those bros from Nova, they've been doing their thing, and it's been really impressive to see New York have new life. New York, new life.
New York, new life.
Yeah.
New York State of Mind for a New York minute. We can keep going. Still to come on NBA Today. Will Jimmy have another historic performance, or can Milwaukee stop him and avoid elimination? I literally cannot believe those words are coming out of my mouth. We have answers to. I really still haven't wrapped my head around the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks trail 3-1 to the Miami Heat. How worried are you, Perk, about the Bucks here?
Wrapping your head, that's a lot of rapping.
You can't talk about the bobblehead, bro. You can't talk about the bobblehead. All right, everybody, welcome to the NBA Today. You understand? I had to get extra fabric for this shirt.
If we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks.
What happened?
What's up?
A little
You
scary.
can't talk about the Bucks without bringing me on. You got the whole crew over there. Thanks for inviting me. I'm back in boring old Connecticut. You guys get to live it up in LA. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing well? Having fun discussing the biggest games of the
I love your
playoffs
coat,
tonight?
big guy. I love your jacket. We're matching blue. Our shirts are a little different, but you look outstanding.
Well,
Shirts are
Richard,
a
you got to
little
get him
different,
one of your shirts. Zach, since you're here, I presume to talk about Miami and Milwaukee. How worried are you about the Bucks?
Let me up the nerdy factor a little bit because we're all been talking about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy's unbelievable. Giannis is playing through pain, all that. Here's what I'm looking for tonight. Something interesting from Game 4, that incredible comeback / collapse, however you want to phrase it. The Bucks, when they won the title, they discovered our best offense is Giannis as a screener, Giannis as a rim-running center, Chris Middleton, Giannis, pick and roll. That's our crutch. That's our go-to play. We barely saw that at all in Game 4 when they needed it the most. Giannis only set 9 ball screens the whole game. That's one of his lowest totals of the season. In fact, they flipped it around and used him as a pick-and-roll ball handler with Brook Lopez screening for him, and that worked for a while until Jimmy Butler decided, let me ruin this too by getting in on that play. And I just wonder, is that because they've lost faith in Chris Middleton as a ball handler? He hasn't been quite the same guy this year. Is it because Giannis is playing through a lot of pain and setting picks is putting yourself in the path of pain? Is it just because that Giannis Lopez pick and roll was working so well? The Bucks seem to have kind of lost that core piece of their offensive identity when they really, really needed it in Game 4, and now their margin for error is nothing. And like you guys are talking about wrapping things around people's heads, it's astonishing that the other day felt like Giannis is back, okay, their playoffs are starting, this is the Vegas favorite. They could end tonight if they don't find themselves, or if Jimmy Butler decides to just end them again.
Zach, thank you for stopping by just to make sure you blessed us with that knowledge. I think me and my tiny head are both picking the Milwaukee Bucks to win tonight. But Miami's going to win the
Shirt is
series.
very different than
We'll be back in just 60 seconds.
We wear the same hat size.